Hey, what's going on, roleplayers? It's the Bard here, and welcome back to the corner. It's time for the final part of our 5th edition Bard analysis. There are 3 bardic colleges left to be analysed in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, so let's get straight into it and see what they have to offer. So Glamour Bards have this mystical, almost unearthly presence about themselves. They also excel when it comes to influencing the minds of others. So the first ability the Glamour Bard gets is the Mantle of Inspiration. You can spend one of your bardic inspirations as a bonus action to give yourself a wondrous appearance. In doing so, you can then grant a number of creatures equal to your charisma modifier temporary hit points and the ability to spend their reaction to move up to their speed without provoking an opportunity attack. I had to read this ability multiple times because I couldn't believe just how good it was. This is an ability that's crying out for you to take the alert feat. With your +5 bonus to initiative rolls, your dexterity added to your initiative rolls, which should be quite high as well, and your jack of all trades give you an extra bonus to non-proficient checks, which includes initiative, you should practically be going first all the time. And in doing so, you can then grant the rest of your party temporary hit points, as well as allowing them to then take a reaction to maneuver exactly where they want to be. At least in surprise scenarios, characters who have both Alert and Mantle of Inspiration can set up a good defense on their party to absorb most of the incoming damage of the surprise round. The ability scales very well. It's giving a fair amount of hit points per use. Considering how temporary hit points work, since it doesn't have a duration, they just last until they're depleted, or until you get another source of temporary hit points and have to choose between the two. Either way, this ability can keep your party swimming in temporary HP, at least until their next long rest. Enthralling Performance is a really solid mass charm for social situations. The 1-minute performance thing isn't really an issue. Most people want to get away from the drudgery of everyday life anyway, and are willing to watch a performer for an extended period of time. All the typical rules for charm apply as normal. Creature helps you as it would help a close friend, don't attack its allies. However, this is still a very safe ability to use. If you try and use it, and the creature manages to succeed on its saving throw, at least it won't realise that you attempted to charm it. This is a very useful aspect of the ability because it means you can make the attempt to charm someone on multiple different occasions without giving away the fact that you're trying to beguile them. An hour's duration isn't really a long amount of time, so make sure you know exactly what you want your thralls to be doing. Set about probing your thralls for information or asking favours from them as quickly as possible. Get as much as you can out of the ability before the effects of the enthralling performance wear off. Mantle of Majesty is essentially offering you multiple uses of the command spell. A really good spell if you know what you're doing with it. Command every round for the next minute, cast as a bonus action. Absolutely unbelievable. If that wasn't enough, creatures that you've charmed get no saving throw against it. You can pull off some really stunning combinations and controlling effects with Mantle of Majesty, but just remember it's concentration based, so you won't be able to use concentration magic whilst you're using this, and you need to keep yourself out of harm's way so that you don't risk too many concentration checks and potentially losing use of the ability. This is very strong for what it offers, and it's balanced well with the concentration duration, meaning you can't overdo it with certain spells. 10 free uses of the command spell is not to be sniffed at, as well as being able to cast it as a bonus action that frees you up to do almost anything else that you want. A really strong ability, very fair in its use, only once per long rest, but very good overall. Unbreakable Majesty is a good example of what I would consider a moderately powerful ability to be. So this ability is once per short or long rest, which makes it very accessible. It basically defends you against the first attack from any creature each round unless it makes a successful saving throw, but even if it does, it still gets disadvantage on any saving throw it makes against your spells on your next turn. Many players are concerned about abilities that don't do anything if a creature successfully saves against them. However, with this ability, at least you're getting something additional added on if that happens to be the case. If this ability is running, and a creature manages to successfully attack you with its first attack, you know it's made its save. So then you know for a fact that it will have disadvantage against the next spell you cast against it. This will help you to plan your strategy for the upcoming round. The creature is likely to fail its save against your next spell, which means that you can more accurately interpret what's going to happen on the battlefield. The flip side of this ability is that it's only as useful as often as you put yourself into physical danger, so in order to get the most out of it, you'd need to be attacked on multiple occasions over multiple rounds. Therefore, it's not the safest of abilities, considering bards aren't particularly great when it comes to melee combat. They are very good when they're spec'd for it, that is to say Valor bards or sword colleges. However, when it comes to things like Glamour, you're still working on light armor, you're still basically a spellcasting character, so you don't really want to be up front all the time. Nevertheless, however, this is a really good defense to start out an encounter with. If you're up close and it looks like you're going to be attacked, or if something attacks you from behind and you're the one in the firing line, then you can fire up your Unbreakable Majesty. If you're in a position where you're not likely to get hit, you can instead choose to go for your Mantle of Inspiration. And because both of them are only bonus actions, you can still take another action and actually have a decent effect on the battlefield whilst you're setting up your defenses. I have to say, I really like the College of Glamour. Its abilities are fairly strong, but they're not too overpowered, so the balance is there. The theme is very good as well. The idea that perhaps you've studied under the tutelage of the Fey creatures, or perhaps under a tutor who themselves had been taught by them. This then gives you some interesting character background options, allowing you to come from either a city area or a wilderness area, depending on who taught you the College of Glamour. This college also has a good blend of combat and social. It's lacking a tiny bit in utility, however that's nothing that you can't make up for with your general bardic spells and skills. College of Swords is just fun, isn't it? Simple but effective. The College of Swords gets bonus proficiencies when it comes to the scimitar and medium armors, so it looks like it's set up to be more of a finesse style character. This aspect is also something that's reflected in the fighting styles that are available to the College of Swords. You have the choice of dueling or two-weapon fighting. This is probably a good thing actually, because it really gives some differentiation between the College of Swords and the College of Valor. Whereas Valor is a college that's prepping for war and has mastery in lots of different types of weapon styles, the College of Swords instead focuses more on the flowing movements of the finesse weapons and the entertainment value that comes from watching a well choreographed fight scene. Whereas you don't necessarily have to be dexterity based, it does seem like the College of Swords is trying to set itself up as a dexterity based attacker. Two-weapon fighting oftentimes works much better with high dexterity characters because they don't have the capacity to use shields. Likewise, when you're dealing with a duelist, you're not tending to use things that are heavy or encumbering or have something in your other hand, so it relies really heavily on having that capacity to move out of the way, get your strikes in first, and also to be able to place your attacks exactly where you want them. It looks very much like the College of Swords is trying to take a leaf out of the Battle Master's book. Your Blade Flourish offers up a 10-foot bonus to movement speed, something else that helps to reinforce that nimble, dexterous style of combat. You also have access to 3 unique maneuvers. Your Defensive Flourish is giving you an AC boost, your Slashing Flourish is allowing you to attack multiple targets, and your Mobile Flourish allows you to push a creature back as well as make up the distance so that you can keep the pressure on. You're also gaining additional damage on every one of these maneuvers, so whatever you roll and add to your AC, or whatever you roll to push a creature back, you also gain that much damage added on as well. The best part about the Blade Flourish, however, is the fact it doesn't require any additional actions, so you can go ahead and use it in conjunction with things like Battle Master techniques, or with things like Sneak Attack if you happen to have that, so it's really good for multi-class characters. It also means you can go ahead and take up things like two-weapon fighting and still get your bonus attacks in with that as well. You need to take the attack action in order to make any of your Blade Flourish abilities work, so if you're taking the attack action, you're not casting any of your spells. Extra attack becomes vital in this scenario. Your spells have a massive effect in-game, especially when it comes to combat, so if you're giving up any of your actions in order to make attacks instead of casting your spells, you want them to be worth it. As it stands, you can only use your Blade Flourish on one of your attacks per turn, so your secondary attack isn't going to get the benefit. This means you're going to have to find a way to make all of your attacks work better for you. In some cases it might be good to get hold of Magic Weapon, however you would probably be better off by getting another party member to cast it on you. Unfortunately the bard doesn't get much in the way of personal buffs. One of your better options would be to use Bestow Curse, and the more attacks you can get from using that, the more damage you can do over each round. And finally, Master's Flourish is giving you the option to just roll a straight d6 and use that instead of expending a Bardic Inspiration die. This allows you to free up your Bardic Inspiration for its standard use that comes with all bards, or it allows you to save your big hitting Bardic Inspiration dice for when you really need to do a lot of damage. There's no denying this is a useful ability for putting out extra damage and extra effects every round without having to rely on any resources. But on the flip side, it's an ability that encourages you to attack more, and when you're attacking, you're not taking other actions, you're not taking help actions, you're not casting any spells, and again, it's only combat focused. The College of Swords is a beautifully simplistic college that allows you to stay on the attack and really focus on a very particular style of combat. The college, however, just lacks in versatility. There's not a great deal that it can do besides being exceptionally good when it comes to a fight. The Sword Bard seems to really hit its peak at about level 6, at which point you already have an improvement to your Bardic Inspiration, you have access to an additional attack, and you've also got 3rd level spells, meaning you can get hold of Bestow Curse, meaning that your main attacks are going to be much more powerful. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the College of Swords. However, its abilities don't really complement the Bard, its abilities complement characters who have levels in other classes. This doesn't necessarily make it a bad college. I think it's got lots of potential, especially for multi-classing into a different character. In fact, I've already got an idea for an interesting build that I'd like to use the College of Swords for as part of it. So it's not a completely superfluous thing. I think it has its place. I just can't really see much benefit in taking it beyond, say, levels 5 or 6. I would really like to have a stab at playing the College of Whispers. There aren't enough bards being played, and when there are, they're getting looked at like they're some kind of just simple minstrel which is there to keep the party entertained. There's something dark and deadly about the College of Whispers, and I think it's got a lot of potential. So if the College of Swords is trying to be like the fighter, then at first glance the College of Whispers is trying to be a rogue. However, it's a little bit more in depth than that. First of all, you get the ability Psychic Blaze, which allows you to add psychic damage to your weapon attacks. However, it's very important that you understand it's weapon attack, which can mean anything. It can be a melee weapon, it can be a ranged weapon, it could be an improvised weapon such as Alchemist's Fire or Vials of Acid. Psychic Blaze is a very good ability. It scales in the same way that Sneak Attack would scale, so you get the same damage boosts at the same levels. However, you don't have those restrictions of having to use Finesse, you don't have the restrictions of having to have Advantage, so you have a lot more versatility in what you can do. The drawback is that it uses your Bardic Inspirations, so you only have a limited number of them per day. You also don't get the same progression that the Rogue Sneak Attack does, so you have to wait for those individual levels where you get that set amount of Psychic Blade damage. But as for every Bard, when you hit level 5, you get your Font of Inspiration, meaning you get all of your Bardic Inspirations replenished whenever you take a short rest, meaning you can get that many more uses out of it within a given time frame. I honestly can't get over how good Psychic Blades are, how much damage it gives you for so little restriction. I think it's an excellent attack, and if you are forced into a situation where you're going to have to rely on melee, or if you want to go for that sneaky rogue style of gameplay, then you've got a great ability here that really allows you a little bit more flexibility. Ultimately, however, I think it's that sneak attack equivalent that you're getting, which is really what every Bard player always wanted. You have all the access to the spells, you have all the access to the skills, it's just that sneak attack that we should have always had, but never quite got, and now we have that option. Words of Terror I find just a tad situational, but at least it's a utility, and we always need more of those. So it's a fear effect, it requires 1 minute of verbal communication, and you do have to be alone with the target in order to make it work. Although one of the things I do really like about it is that you can make the creature afraid of someone other than you. So if there's a diplomatic situation, a trade deal or something, and you can get to the person who you want to influence, you can make them afraid of the people they're going to be bartering or bargaining with. This comes in the form of disadvantage on ability checks, so we're talking about things like persuasion, intimidation, deception, as long as the source of fear is within the target's view. So in that way, you can really start to subtly push things in the direction you want them to go. I think this is a really good ability, but the fact that you have to be alone with your target does make it a bit more difficult to use. So you're going to have to be a bit more devious in getting your target alone with you in order to make full use of it. But still, it's absolutely worth it if you can make it work, because the frightened effect is really nasty and it will put them on the back foot. Mantle of Whispers isn't a bad ability, but what it does boil down to essentially is a discount disguise self. So if a creature dies within 30 feet of you, you can steal their shadow and then use that to take on the visage of that person. The real benefit to using this over a spell, however, is that you get some of that casual information that they would freely share, so it makes the ruse a little bit more believable. You're going to be testing your charisma deception versus their wisdom insight, however you're getting a +5 bonus due to this ability. You may even have the benefit of doubling up your proficiency on your deception rolls if you've applied your expertise to that skill. This is a fun little ability for things like infiltration. If you're doing skills like sleight of hand and you fail, you might be able to use the shadow to throw your pursuers off the trail. You may even be able to use this in combat if you're lucky enough to evade your pursuers long enough that you can use their shadow to get the drop on the other targets. Shadow Lore is a very powerful long duration charm. Unfortunately, it's all or nothing and it's only one shot per day. If you can get this thing to stick, however, you'll find you have no end of uses for it. One of the best things about this ability is that the targets always follow your commands to the letter, and having 8 hours where they can do things, interact with people, give you information, give you gifts, get things done on your behalf, there's, like I say, no end of uses for this thing. The creature doesn't fight on your behalf unless it's already inclined to do so. But what's worth noting is that you can actually use this in combat as well. Typical charms usually have the caveat that if you attack their allies, it breaks the effect of the charm. However, Shadow Lore doesn't say that. This means you can use it on the target and take them out of the fight straight away, forcing them not to attack you. So that's one creature out of the combat immediately as soon as the battle begins, providing of course you both share a common language. Most creatures speak common anyway. However, it may be worth investing in the ability to speak other languages if you really plan to make good use of this ability. On the other hand, you might just be able to get away with a spell like Tongues, for example, which would allow you to speak and understand any language. The only problem with this, however, is the spell only lasts for an hour, so if you want to make full use of this ability, then you'll need to be able to communicate with them for the full 8 hours. I imagine a lot of people are attracted to what the Bard can do as a mechanical class, but what turns them off is the connotations that tend to go with it. I think College of Whispers can really help to dispel some of those stereotypical notions. Additionally, I feel there's a lot of potential role-playing opportunities in this college, such as the Dark Performer or the Tortured Artist. What I will say though is the one thing that I find really stands out to me is the way the abilities work. Even though there's some good variety, you've got utility, you've got combat, everything is very, very social. Your Words of Terror is obvious, but your Mantle of Whispers allows you to take on another visage. Your Shadow Lore allows you to charm someone. Even your Psychic Blades directly attack the mind of the enemy. The College of Whispers understands our most basic and primal emotion, which is fear. The college also expertly incorporates one of the fundamental human fears, which is isolation. Isolation breeds fear, and when you consider how the college focuses on a single creature at a time, it's easy to see just how well thought out this class really is. Well, that's all the college has covered, but where do I think they belong in the overall scheme of things? I think Swords could be a really fun college to play, but my main concern with it is that it's not really doing enough for you. It's solely focused on combat, there's no utility available in it, and unfortunately it's forcing you to be attacking all the time to get the most out of it, which means you're not making use of all your other great abilities. There's nothing that you can really give to the rest of your party either, apart from having a steady sword arm. I think this can be a fun one to play, but I just think that there's not enough incentive for you to carry on after, say, level 6. Once you get to level 6, if you're looking to be a melee kind of character, which might be the reason you took this college in the first place, then multiclassing into something like fighter or thief gives you lots and lots of benefits. Whilst I do like this college, I feel that a good archetype should give you incentive to carry on your progression in whatever class you're playing, rather than duck out halfway through when you've got all the abilities that you want. Whispers is an amazingly thematical college. One thing I love about it is just how focused it is on what it does. However, that focus is also a little bit of a downfall, in the sense that it doesn't give you the flexibility that you need, or it doesn't give you as many options as some of the other colleges do. I still really want to play a Whisper Bard, however. Not having to follow the typical bardic stereotypes is just so refreshing. Your character can be antisocial, they don't have to be a performer, and more so, they are a character that can and should be feared. The college is versatile enough that it's got access to some decent combat abilities, and it's got some very interesting utilities as well. If you like that single focus, if you like that subtle manipulator, but also enjoy the fact that you've got a little bit of punch as well, then I say go for Whisper Bard. There's a lot of great role-playing opportunities just waiting to be unpacked, and it's always nice to have a character that just goes against type. I would say that Valor is probably one of the most balanced colleges when it comes to what you get, what your party gets, and what your enemy has to contend with. Your bonus proficiencies are helping you be really versatile in a combat. You're getting these bonus proficiencies with martial weapons, with shields, with medium armors, meaning that you can take on both roles of attacker and defender. You're also getting access to that extra attack. Your enemy also has to deal with the fact that you can cast spells and swing swords at the same time, so if it's a situation where you're dealing with other spellcasters, for example, who are using dispels or silences or anti-magic fields, at least you've got the flexibility there as well. This same argument could be made in the case of swords as well. However, Valor has this wonderful combat inspiration. The bonuses to armor class and the bonuses to damage that you can give to other people instead really helps this class to shine. This makes it such a versatile college because you're able to give your party the things they need when they need it. What keeps this college middle of the road, however, is the fact that it's just trying to do a little bit too much. The extra attacks are nice, but unfortunately you don't get any bonuses to them the way swords do. The battle magic is a nice ability, but you don't always need that extra sword swing when you're firing off one of your mid to high level spells. Valor has a lot of potential in it, but it really only comes into its own when you take a specific element of the college and then really enhance it. So through the use of particular feats. So if you want to go down the melee route, you want to take some of the master style feats. If you want to be more of a spell slinger and take advantage of the battle magic, then you're looking at stuff like Warcaster. Valor has the tools to put you on the path you want to be on. However, if you want to be the equal of your peers, you need to invest your resources and feats where it counts. Glamour is an excellent college. It can provide your party with some mobility, it gives them plenty of temporary hit points, you've got utility, you've got your own defences, there's a lot going on in this college. That doesn't mean it's beyond criticism, however. Your Unbreakable Majesty is okay, but it does rely on you putting yourself in harm's way in order to get anything out of it. The college also has some excellent charms, and the ability to cast command over and over again multiple times is just absolutely fantastic. The college seems well balanced. Things like your Mantle of Majesty require your concentration, so you're going to be using things like command with your one-shot spells or your fire and forgets. But either way, it's a very, very nice college, especially if you want to be a backup character. The only problem with the Glamour Bard is it is a little bit stereotypical. It's what I would imagine most bards to be. It's all about the performance, it's all about enthralling the audience. This isn't a bad thing, it's a very, very useful function of the bard, and it does its job admirably. It would just be nice to get away from that somewhat stereotypical view of the bard, the suave singer or the passionate performer, the enthralling entertainer. You understand what I'm talking about. So Lore gets the top spot, and I think it absolutely deserves it. Those bonus proficiencies make you such a versatile character. Additionally, you'll be able to use the help action so much more in order to be of much more use to the rest of your party. Your Cutting Words has to be one of the best abilities in the whole game. It prevents damage, you can use it to subvert attacks, you can use it to destroy someone's initiative, or you can use it to make them look the fool whenever they're in a social situation, because they can't get the best out of their performance, out of their persuasion, or out of their deception. The additional magical secrets can really help you get anything you feel like you're missing, so if you think you need some attack, some defense, some social, some utility, some of the best spells for those purposes are in level 3. Things like Haste, Elemental Weapon, Gaseous Form, Fireball, Aura of Vitality, Tongues, whatever spell you need, you can get it. Some of the best ones come from this level, and what makes it even better, these spells are free. Lore Bards get more spells known than any other college out there. Finally, your peerless skill allows you to spend your Bardic Inspiration dice on yourself when it comes to ability checks. Almost nothing you do will fail. You can have the best stealth, you can have the best deception, you can have the best knowledge, you can have the best anything. This stacks up so well with your skills that have expertise in them. At the top end, you're looking at 12 points of proficiency, then another possible 12 points from your Bardic Inspiration. All of that on top of your ability score and whatever you roll on a d20. Additionally, don't forget that Initiative is an ability check. So you're getting half your proficiency from Jack of all trades, you're getting your Bardic Inspiration dice, which is up to d12, plus whatever dexterity you have and whatever you roll. I would just love to see the look on the DM's face when he asks you to roll initiative and you tell him you've got a 40. So that's the Bardic College analysis complete. Which ones are the showstoppers and which ones are just there to warm up the crowds? Thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, as well as anything else you'd like to see from the channel in the future. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time at the gaming table.